Hi everyone, it is the end of January, so that just means I have to film my January reading wrap up. So in the month of January, I have read a total of 8 books. I don't know why I did that dramatic pause, but yeah, I've read 8 months in the month of January. My goal was to read 10 books. I want to read 10 books a month, but yeah, I'm a college student, so honestly, you know, reading 8 books is better than 0 books. So let's get into all the books that I read in January. So if I'm looking down, I'm just looking at my computer, but I'm going to start with the first book that I read in 2025 all the way to the last book that I read in January. And so the first book I read this year was Restore Me by J.L. Seegers. Quite literally had me on an emotional train wreck. Like, I was literally laughing, screaming, crying all at the same time while reading this book. But yeah, I don't think I've ever read a book where like the female main character was a widow, and so I liked like that kind of unique plot. And I also kind of like the forbidden romance aspect in this book, like, because this was a true forbidden romance. Like, I 100% highly recommend this book. And y'all, this is a Black romance, which I didn't even know that before I started reading, but once I found out, I was really excited because I'm really trying to like diversify. Is that a word? I don't know, but you know what I mean. I'm really trying to like change up my reading. I feel like I read a lot of just like white people in books, and I want to kind of diversify and read more races. Let me shut up. I don't know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm trying to say. What? And then I'm just gonna pair these 2 books together because they're in the same series. So then I went on to read Revive Me Part 1, The Act, and then Revive Me Part 2, The Affair. There is a 3rd book, but I haven't got to it. I don't really have a reason why I didn't read it yet. I just didn't. But these 2 books follow the male main characters in the first book that I read, sister. So these like 2 books are about her. First book, Part 1, The Act, is like when the 2 main characters are still in college, and the male main character is like super rich, comes from a rich family. His dad wants him to be like a doctor. And y'all, the ending of this book, literally my jaw was dropped because what the actual freak. Like, I was so upset. And then Part 2, a lot of people, you know, may not like Part 2 because, as you can see, the name literally says The Affair. So Part 2 happens like years later, and he's married to someone else. And I don't know if that was a spoiler. I'm pretty sure it's not. If it was, I'm sorry. Oh. A lot of people may not like this book, but I love this whole entire series. I still have to read Part 3, but this was so freaking good. Like, the drama, the romance, everything, I loved it. So then I got to read First Time Caller by B.K. Borison, and this was actually an arc that I got to read. So yeah, I honestly think this was like the first book that I read that had the single mom trope. Like, come on, people say that, you know, single dads is where it's at. No, I'm lying. Single dads is always where it's at. Like, I was gonna say single moms is better, and lie. Single dads always on top, no competition at all. But yeah, this book was great. Okay, the next book I read was Butchered and Blackbird. All I gotta say is, if you haven't read this book, you're boring. You're so boring. No, I'm joking. But yeah, I put this book off so much because I did not think that I was going to like the plot. But no, I ate this book up, literally left no crumbs when I read it. I loved this book, and I want to read the next book. I'm just blanking on what the title for that book is. Then I went on to read Iron Flame, and honestly, I don't even want to really talk about this book because I may accidentally drop some spoilers, and I don't want to be that person. But yeah, I loved it. Is this book better than Fourth Wing? Not at all, but it's a good book, and she is a thick one, and I managed to finish her in, I think, under a week. So yeah, I just have no life, that's why. But yeah, I'm currently reading Onyx Storm, and it's taken me a little while to get through that. All right, then I went on to read this book, Ruthless Mafia Daddy. I'm ashamed that I read this book. I'm joking, I honestly don't care. But yeah, I read this book 3 stars. The main plot of this book was that it was like an accidental pregnancy, and like the male main character was like head of the mafia, and she found out and he was kind of like stalking her. I don't know. It wasn't that good. It wasn't really rememberable because I don't remember the characters' names in this book. I thought it was gonna be good, but it wasn't. So, and then the last book that I read in January is this book. Now this, I'm definitely not gonna say the title of this book because you can read it yourself. But yeah, this was a 2-star read for me. This book was just terrible. Now don't get me wrong, I did read like the other 2 books in this series. It's like they were also terrible, so I don't know why I thought this was going to be any different. But yeah, these books are super cringy. It's bad, but I do like the plus size representation in all of her books, so that's a plus. So those were all the 8 books that I read in the month of January, and I'm not gonna lie, now that I went through all of my books that I read, like I low-key had like a boring month. Like I feel like all the books I read this month, they were like kind of meh. So next month I really need to like spice it up and like diversify my reading. Is diversify a word? I keep using it and I don't even know if it's a word. I probably sound so stupid. Words are hard. I don't know how to speak, you guys, okay? So don't come at me. Sometimes I just stumble upon my words. Do you hear my heat right now? That is my heater making all of this noise. What is that? Y'all, I live in a college apartment, so take that as you will. Wait, let me see. Oh, the lighting is hitting. Oh, no. The lighting is low-key hitting, I'm not gonna lie.